We are back. Post ProRes for the month of September is live. I am John Pollock, reunited with one world traveling WH Park, who is back. Hello, WH.
Hey, John. Hey, everyone.
It's good to chat with you. You are. It's been a while since you and I have sat down. Always a big deal when we can bring the worlds of John Pollock and WH Park back here at Post Wrestling.
It's true. I trying to think what the last thing we did together was. Besides have coffee together in person, uh, there was something we did. It wasn't post Perez. It was something else.
Yeah, that's when we have it. That's when we have the off-air podcasts, which are always the
that's,
best ones.
that's right. That's the one where I get even saucier and more apoplectic. Is that the word I'm
Yeah, you
looking
just
for?
let the opinions fly because you're such a wallflower on these shows, always biting your tongue of what you think about the wrestling world at large. But since we last spoke, you did make your big trip down to Chicago a
Mhm.
month ago. A very eventful trip, and it sounds like your accommodations were several grades above Davy Portman's this past week.
I at least had a good shower and a bed
Yeah,
to sleep
bed.
in.
So that's the bar now when
Uh,
it comes to traveling.
like he made the joke that it was better than the like his Airbnb was like terrible, but at least it was better than my hotel. Like then reading his
His
letter
sounded
to
worse.
the host, it was much worse than mine. I at least had a very comfortable sleep, and I was able to take a shower every day I was there. So
So it puts into perspective,
it does for sure.
WH. You had quite the trip, but there you go. We're not here to be a trip advisor, but
But
yeah,
but it I love Chicago. It's an amazing
great city.
city, and I will say if if Tony Khan does listen to this show, Tony, you need to bring it into the city, my friend. Schaumburg is too fucking far away. All right, it's not feasible. That's why half the fucking arena is empty for your TV tapings, my friend. Bring it into the city. More people will go to your shows.
Was that the first time you've been to Chicago?
My second time, I
Second.
went like the March of 2011 as a trip before I would move to Japan for 10 years, and I thought I'll go down to Chicago with some friends, do a road trip, and that was great. But like March is still too cold.
Yeah.
This trip was beautiful. The weather was perfect, and yeah, I will say this from my own experience of watching AEW live. Like Dynamite is good, it's fine. I can do without what I think was the elevation tapings. That was I just ignored those. But Rampage and Dark tapings, those feel like an eternity. And the pay per view itself was very good. And if only I could have gotten into that press conference afterwards, so that would have just been the capper.
The after show. Yeah, maybe they should be selling tickets to the press conferences for future shows. But yeah, it's are you going to either of the Toronto shows?
No, apparently, like it was very difficult to get tickets for
Mm-hmm.
Dynamite, and based on my previous experience, I have no interest in going to a Rampage taping.
Well, there you go. So you will have no firsthand account from one WH Park. But we have a lot to get into to catch everyone up to speed. We're going to talk about, we'll get the updated standings for Stardom's 5-star Grand Prix. I've done some quick Stardom math as we go into the final show next weekend. We're going to discuss All Japan's 50th anniversary card and Kento Miyahara, who just put on a tour de force over 2 nights. Some Noah action featuring a brand new champion. But we will start off with New Japan. They held their Burning Spirit card earlier today at Kobe World Hall, and they ended up drawing, as I pull it up here, they did fourth. Sorry, that was the All Japan show. They did. What's your guess on attendance here as I pull this
For
up?
Kobe World Hall, like so that's where they normally where Dragon Gate holds their big
Yes.
like Dragon Gate Festival shows, which is like their version of WrestleMania. I try to remember what they hold like normally. Uh, I think they normally hold like over around 10,000, maybe just under that. But this attendance, I'm gonna say in the 5,000, 6,000 range.
3,150.
Well, like I was being generous then.
Yes. So that was. Do you look at that as a disappointment for Kobe?
Well, I don't know like what the
The,
normal attendance for that, the capacity for that venue is. I can't really make a judgment on that. But 3,000, like 3,000 is just like like Korakuen Hall is just under 3,000. Basically, it's 2,700. So 300 more than Korakuen Hall for like a big show. But
is
again,
Korakuen that big?
Yeah, like I
I
just
thought it was
did a
like
review.
1800 was maybe I'm
No,
being.
I just did a review of a match from there for Long and Winding Royal Road. So today. So
Yes,
like
we will
it's
chat about that.
yeah.
Well, today's show, though, I just saw the top matches. We'll go through the results here. The main event was spectacular between Will Ospreay and David Finlay. If there's one match I would highly recommend. They had a great match in the G1, and this really what was a great elevation of what they did there. And just some highlights here was the fact that they aired a video kind of contrasting the two, how Ospreay came into New Japan, won his very first Best of the Super Juniors tournament, while Finlay received 0 points in his first Best of the Super Juniors, and have kind of positioned these two that Ospreay has been the one that has had all the success, and David Finlay kind of in the shadows, and then beats him in the G1. And on the way to the ring, they note that Will Ospreay, one of the people that he has never beaten, is currently at home on suspension. So dropping that little nugget in there as they are dangling for a future encounter with them. This match, it was David Finlay was getting destroyed at the beginning, and then he attacks Will Ospreay's hand with the shillelagh that he's now bringing with him to the ring. And Ospreay sells this like his hand is broken, and Finlay just wraps it around the rail, and eventually Jeff Cobb has to come back, and his finger has been dislocated. So Jeff Cobb puts the finger back into place, and Ospreay is just screaming as this finger is put back. And Lord Gideon Ray, are you familiar with Lord Gideon Ray now of the United Empire?
I thought it was great. They dropped the G with this guy.
Lord Gideon Gray is what they were constantly referring to him as.
Okay, yeah. I'm familiar because like I remember like seeing him like be the manager of like Okan in Rev Pro and stuff, but I've never seen him actually wrestle in the ring.
Well, he was just a second here in his like his hat and his outfit. It was quite the character here. So
Is it better or worse than Bruce Tharp?
It's comparable, I guess.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's all I need to know.
I didn't get much of an exposure to him, so the jury remains out on that one. Then it just got into all the big near falls. We saw an Os cutter get blocked and then was rotated into the Prima Nocta. Ospreay then caught him with a Spanish fly, and then it comes down to Finlay. He ducks the hidden blade. The Os cutter is turned into the Prima Nocta, and the crowd's going nuts at this point. Acid drop gets countered, and he lands a super Os cutter, and he goes to lift him for the Stormbreaker, but can't get him up. So instead he hits a pedigree, another hidden blade, and then the Stormbreaker, 28-22. I thought the match was terrific. Like, it was a really, really strong match. I've been very impressed with David Finlay since this G1, where I think he was a big standout, especially the first half of that D block. But this was, a main event for David Finlay, was pretty much a big signal of where they see him, and Ospreay retaining here. And then afterwards, Naito came out to challenge Ospreay, coming off of their G1 Climax semifinal. Zack comes out to dispute this. He also wants the next shot. So it's going to be Zack Sabre Jr. against Naito at the Royal Quest show this coming weekend, one of the two nights. And then the winner of that will challenge Ospreay for a U.S. title, or a U.S. title shot down the road.
Okay. So Ospreay versus Finlay was the main event of this show. So, I can see that not necessarily drawing the kind of like, the fabled casual fan, like the walk-up crowd.
Yeah.
To this show if it can hold more than 3,000 people. So, but I think it's a good sign that they're willing to experiment with people in the main events, like with David Finlay, especially, like I'd imagine they looked at the G1 match and thought, okay, he can hold his own and keep up with Ospreay, and he can have a good match with him. So you build him up even more. And then if you get them to headline or even like do the semi-main event of a show with him in a singles match with someone else, maybe like even Jay White or something like that, you play off their history. I think it's a great sign for David Finlay, who I've been high on forever. Like I've been a fan of this guy since like he was wearing stupid furry boots, and so like his look is so much more improved. And yeah, I think as long as it's just the shillelagh and there's no hornswoggle, we're all good.
Yeah, there was no hornswoggle to be spoken of, but I think these are the kinds of elevations you need to take chances with, because you go to a place like Kobe and you can't always rely on this outgoing generation of your Tanahashis and Naitos and Okadas and even like Zacks and such. Like if you want to elevate people, part of it is, it's going to be one step back before you take two steps forward to hopefully create a new generation that the public sees as main event stars. So I think with David Finlay, they certainly seem committed to him, and certainly Ospreay as well. The other matches I saw, Carl Anderson retained the Never Openweight Championship, defeating Tanahashi. Very average match, I thought. I don't think this ever got to the level of being great. In the end, it was a series of counters, Tanahashi trying for his own gun stun, but then Gallows tripped them from the floor, and then Tanahashi blocked a gun stun, and a twist and shout was countered into a gun stun by Anderson in 13:39, and afterwards, it was the big angle where Jay White joined in. It was a 3-on-1 attack on Tanahashi. Tama Tonga runs down, followed by Hikuleo, and he stares down Tama Tonga, but then grabs Jay White by the throat, sending him into a gun stun by Tama, and Tama Tonga and Hikuleo embrace. They are back together, and Tama Tonga lifted up the IWGP title, and Hikuleo raised the Never Openweight Championship as well. So this was the babyface turn for Hikuleo, who they are branching off into a babyface single star.
The long-awaited babyface turn of Hikuleo. Listen, just bring back their dad. That's all. Just bring back King Haku, and I'll be happy. And give him all the titles,
Well, with traveling easing up in Japan, it might not be long until we see Father Haku.
Yeah. To your point about like elevations, John, like I really hope like the kind of elevations that you saw kind of them trying to do in the G1 with like David Finlay and like Jonah and some other people. Like I do think like when they come back, like people like Shota Umino and Yoda Tsuji and Yuya Uemura get the same treatment. Like, and I don't mean like a year down from when they return. I mean like right away. These are guys you have to start pushing because they have to replace the generation before them. Because there's that massive gap of like people like like pretty much Okan is the only one of his generation left. Everyone else is gone for whatever reason. And then as far as heavyweights go, and like you got to bring these three back. And you really seriously, including also, I shouldn't forget Ren Narita, but bring them back and just push them. Like, because you desperately need, like, Naito's going to be gone soon. Like, Tanahashi's, like, reaching the twilight of his career. And you can't just rely on Okada forever.
Kota Ibushi is huge question mark.
Huge question mark. We don't know if he's ever coming back to wrestling, let alone New Japan. And here's the thing: it's like you can't rely necessarily on the import stars, the foreign stars, to carry box office in Japan. It's very much driven by native stars, and like native like foreign stars can add to the appeal and add to like the box office. But at the end of the day, you need to have like native stars being like native box office draws and being top line stars in the company and drawing the appeal from like the native Japanese population.
Yeah, I think that it's always been the most effective is you just reintroduce somebody and you make a big signal that we're going all the way with this person. And not everyone's going to turn out like an Okada, but I think that's when the audience is most hungry for someone to come in, just shock the system, and you do something surprising with them immediately. And you're coming off a generation that, number one, there's a lot of fans that have been created over these last 10 years that have been introduced to all of these giant stars that are seen as these legendary main eventers that are slowly going to be phased out. The ones succeeding them in those roles, it's going to be a tough transition when it comes to these major names that are going to be de-escalated down the card, kind of put like we've seen with a Tanahashi, where he's someone they can rely on, but you can see he's certainly been de-emphasized. And I think, you're going to see your Naitos. Everyone in time will have to shift out of that. And it's having all of these people ready to go to the next level. And for your foreign stars, I would say it's a much different environment now where I think there's going to be a lot more appetite from a WWE to go after some of these names on top of it. Like you maybe will get 2 or 3 years out of someone, but then they're going to be looking at what are my options back in the United States. And if you have WWE being aggressive over these years, that those are the names they're going to be looking at, I think.
Oh, for sure. It's interesting to look at New Japan from that point of view of like who are they going to start attaching rockets to become the next, Naito's, Tanahashi's, Okada's in the company, and as well as who's going to be the next, Kenny Omega's, AJ Styles, Jay White's, who they're of foreign stars that they're going to start elevating as well. But otherwise, you know what I have to say, John, like I don't really pay too much attention to the booking of New Japan. I feel it's very stagnant. Like I sometimes have to remind myself, who is the IWGP World Champion? Oh, it's Jay White, and it's just like they do nothing with him as champion, it seems, and I don't understand that. Like I don't know when his next title defense will be. Is he going to be at Royal Quest?
He's on the Declaration of Power show, which is what was the King of Pro Wrestling show. It's
right.
And that's another one. It's, this is Sumo Hall, and they're going with Jay White and Tama Tonga in the main event with Okada and Jonah. Those are your two matches.
I think that's going to be a tough sell.
Yeah, like that's sort of the process that they're in at the moment. Like you can see there is an effort to put these newer names in, but I don't think they're necessarily going to be readily accepted as main eventers. Like you are coming off like pretty much 10 years of, a very select few that are accepted in those big roles that they're now trying to replenish. The other match of note was the junior heavyweight tag title match where TJP and Francesco Akira retained against Ryusuke Taguchi and Master Wato, with the leaning tower hit on Taguchi and Akira getting the pin. This was a fun junior heavyweight tag title match. Taguchi, this was one he had his working boots on here, and audience got into it near the end here. So 12:45 that one went. And the rest of the card featured Jay White and Taiji Ishimori beating Tama Tonga and Jado, Jonah, Shane Haste, and Bad Dude Tito over Okada, Togi Makabe, and Tomoaki Honma. Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi over Naito and Sonata. Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb beating Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens. Toru Yano and Doc Gallows going to a double countout in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. And in the opener, Shingo, Hiromu, and Bushi beating Kenta, Hikuleo, and El Phantasmo with the ground cobra twist by Takagi on Phantasmo.
Shingo Takagi and Hiromu Takahashi are in the openers. It's interesting.
I did not see this double countout between Toru Yano and Doc Gallows. I wonder how that one was received. In the second match, too. What an odd placement.
I'm sure people were like, it's over? Thank God.
Well, so this weekend they have the Royal Quest shows, which... Are you aware? These are just live events. They are not streaming on New Japan World. They're not pay-per-views on Fight.
Really? They're not even on Fight. Okay. No, I did not know that, John.
I was going to look this up. Like I was planning to watch at least one of them. They're not. You cannot watch them this weekend. I assume that they're going to be up on New Japan World at some point.
Right.
But I think in this day and age, when you're putting a show up 2 or 3 weeks after the fact, there's like a dozen shows that have happened since then, and it's out of sight, out of mind, unless you're talking about just killer reviews for a show that people are going to seek out. But to me, it's a bit of a lost opportunity because that first Royal Quest show, yes, they had a lot of streaming problems, I recall, but that was such a red-hot crowd, and it was a great show that they had. But yeah, these are just live events for those that are in Crystal Palace this weekend.
Well, there you go. Like, we'll get the update hopefully from Karen Peterson if she's able to escape Florida in time to catch a flight over there.
That's right. That's what New Japan is. We're sending off Karen Peterson for a live perspective of these shows because they won't let us see them anywhere else. We have to go to them.
We have to go to them. Yeah. As far as I know, they've only I'm looking at their website, John. So the Sunday show only has the IWGP Women's Championship tournament match listed here, and then the Saturday show only has the FTR versus the Aussie Open match there. So I don't exactly know what's.
I would assume the whole card is both nights are going to be released on Monday, and we'll know all these. This is the New Japan method of they've got to wait till they get through their big show before they announce the card, but they're going to run into this problem again where. For the Sumo Hall show, that's October 10th. That's in 2 weeks, and we have 2 matches, which I guess those are really the 2 matches that you're either sold on this card or you're not. I don't think anything on the undercard is really going to change your mind on that. But again, that's probably a card we don't get in full until these Royal Quest shows are done.
Yeah, I with Royal Quest, I just think it's kind of it's a really big gamble because like you're depending on a market that where the name of New Japan Pro Wrestling may not have the same cachet as it did before because you're not necessarily sending stars like that you had before. Like I don't know like how they would do it in the United States like for a big show. Like I don't know if they can ever do. I don't know what they would do. Say they booked MSG again. Like what would they do for that? Like you'd have to put on a massive main event that you would have to announce way in advance. I would think that they should have announced something with Ospreay at the very least for one of these shows, regardless of what happened between him and Dave Finlay today. So,
well, I would definitely recommend the main event if you want to go check out one match from the Burning Spirit show today. But there was a lot of wrestling going on this week, so we are going to move on over to a card that you did get to see quite a bit of, and that was Noah's event from Dolphins Arena earlier today, and it featured the big regaining of the GHC crown by one Kaito Kiyomiya, who defeated Kenoh in 26 minutes and 41 seconds. This show drawing 1,933 fans, and the person I immediately thought of when his next challenger made his way down to the ring was when WH Park, as yes, Kazuyuki Fujita will officially christen this championship reign with the honor of being the first man to challenge Kiyomiya next month.
I don't know if he's actually drunk or he's pretending to be drunk. He had a can of beer in his hand, John, when he came down to make
poured it all over Kaito Kiyomiya's head. That was a celebration.
I don't understand like this in any way, shape, or form. Like he just makes a mockery of like, I don't know if it's his gimmick. Like I'm just gonna play into the fact that no one likes me, so I'm just gonna kind of be a troll. I think that's his gimmick now, like Vegeta. And I didn't find his shtick appealing before. I find it less so even now. And the fact that he's gonna go into this, and the thing is, he beat it was Muta who pinned Nakajima, but he was on the same winning team against Nakajima and Funaki, with Vegeta was, and so I guess that entitles him to a title shot. I don't know, but I have no interest in seeing that match, John. This match was good. I did like this match. I thought, Kiyomiya and Kenoh both like just brought it. They also have the benefit of having a great history, rivalry with one another, and it all came into play. I will say, I did find it amusing that the only way Kiyomiya could actually finally beat Kenoh and win the JHC title was to channel the energy, the spirit of Keiji Muto. Did the this, and then hit a Shining Wizard to beat him. His own, signature finisher before, the Tiger Suplex, didn't beat Kenoh. A Shining Wizard before that didn't beat Kenoh. It's only when he embraced the spirit of Keiji Muto.
Yeah,
the
this
symbolism
is the deal.
Involved was
when he beat Muto in July, it's like he has now absorbed the spirit of Keiji Muto, and so that's how would you say Kiyomiya, because we have been very critical over the last year to 18 months of Kiyomiya's handling. We have not spoken since he beat Muto in July. He goes through the N1 and now is GHC champion. So what shape do you see Kiyomiya being in now? Do you think that they have properly got him back on track? Does it remain to be seen based on how this title reign goes?
I think he's back on track, but I can see it being easily derailed by
Fujita winning.
Yeah, by Fujita winning. Yeah. I mean then it's like why do you even bother with doing the things with the N1 or anything else? But yeah, I mean I think he's got this fresh perspective because he's changed his look. His new look, by the way, is amazing. It's like he's channeling Jesse Ventura and the pastel colors from the 1960s and stuff. It's tremendous. What a departure from before. It looks good on him though. Not everyone can pull that off, but hey, Kaito Kiyomiya pulling off the pastels, chef's kiss right there. But I think he has to beat Vegeta. He has to have another significant title run like his first one. And he has to beat a lot of the older guys. He gets a challenge from for example, like Sugiura, he should beat him. If he gets a challenge from like say a Hideki Suzuki, he should beat him. If he gets a challenge from like whoever, right? Like any of the like foreign talent that they've brought in who they're trying to push, he has to beat them. Like I think you build towards a match for whatever the next big Budokan show would be in 2023, and you make it uncertain if he's going to beat that challenger. And like I would hope it would be like someone like Shiozaki or Nakajima. You have to build those guys up again for a challenge like that. But yeah, I he's the future of this company, really. Like as its top headliner, and you can't like fuck around with him like by like on a whimsical decision. Let's give it to Fujita over him. Like he's young, he'll recover from that. No, he won't. Like you can't mess around with a guy's push, like especially in a company like Noah, where I think fans are like going through peaks and valleys with their expectations and their hopes and dreams with like what's going to happen with like the native born stars of this company.
Let's chat a bit about Keiji Muto. He teamed with Fujita on this match, beating Masakatsu Funaki and Katsuhiko Nakajima with a Shining Wizard by Muto to beat Nakajima. So with Muto, he had a very busy week going over to Arthur Ashe Stadium and rekindling his friendship with one Steve Borden, who will now come over to Japan in January for the Yokohama Arena show, which will be the farewell to Great Muta, but not the end of Keiji Muto, which will have his separate farewell later in the spring. Do I have all of this correct?
I think so. This would be like the second, I think, farewell to Great Muta, because he did try to retire that gimmick before, and he retired the moonsault. Maybe he's gonna have a.
He did do a match based around retiring his moonsault. Yes, so he has gotten the juice out of all farewells. But I guess looking at Muto, how do you see this ultimate retirement match going? Do you see him involved with Kiyomiya one more time? Do you see his retirement being something akin to how we saw Kobashi go out with like some big all-star multi-man tag? Like how do you kind of wind this down with Muto?
I think it's going to be more akin to Kobashi. That's my gut feeling, because I think he's going to want to have as many stars in the ring with him to give him for his farewell, and then like have a celebration afterwards. Like not everyone's going to be, in the match itself, but I you're going to have your usual suspect of like, say, Masahiro Chono is going to be there.
That's who I would imagine would have to be involved in some significant way.
I don't think he'll get in the ring per se. I think he'll be like a second or right, something like that. But like I can see him like just trying to get, like his many students that he's trained throughout the years. Like for example, Sonata would I think be involved with that. I think someone like Tanahashi has like big influence on Tanahashi. Like I think if he asked, they would send Tanahashi to be part of his retirement match. So yeah, I think it's going to be a big all-star affair of like as many active wrestlers that have some kind of connection to Keiji Muto teaming with him and being on the other side of the ring.
For the Yokohama Arena show, I think like if you're going to do Muta and Sting together, like I would, to get something out of it, make it a 6-man and make Kiyomiya like get him something off of teaming with Muto and Muta and Sting.
Or make it an 8-man and bring Darby Allin too.
There you go. You could work that one in too as well. But yeah, that's the big show for January 21st. They're going to do Yokohama Arena with Steve Borden coming back to Japan for the first time in decades, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool. Like I remember they had the tag team match in, I think, the Tokyo Dome, John, against the Steiners. That's a great match.
Maybe they'll do that one.
They're still around. I'm sure Scott Steiner's always looking for a payday.
Get Scott and Rick. I guess Braun Breaker would probably be unavailable if it was a 6-man. But maybe that is what they. Could you imagine that match in 2023? I definitely cannot.
No, it's Pro Wrestling Noah, John. I can definitely imagine that match happening there.
Sting would be the one kind of I think like carrying the workload in that thing.
Probably.
Junior heavyweight title match. Hayata defeated Yohei to retain the championship with the headache. Takashi Sugiura and Satoshi Kojima won the GHC tag titles, beating Hideki Suzuki and Timothy Thatcher, who's had, since he's got his visa issues sorted, is having quite the run now, but dropping the tag titles in their first title defense. These were some lengthy matches as well. This looks like this was quite the marathon show. As
I didn't watch every match, but I did watch this match, the tag team title match. I found it quite good. Like,
sounds really good.
It's a very dynamic, like Hideki Suzuki being more dynamic than usual. I like his grappling style, his catch wrestling style, and I think he's a great partner for Timothy Thatcher, and I think they work really well together. But it kind of starts off a little bit slow at the beginning, picks up in the middle, and then just goes into another gear. With like Suzuki and Thatcher, like just picking up the pace to keep up with Kojima and Sugiura, who are considerably older than they are. Not by too much, but enough in wrestling years, right? So, but like I like this team of Kojima and Sugiura. They have this really funny friendship where they give each other nicknames and stuff like that, and it's quite cute, John. But this is a really good match. I would say first watch the heavyweight title match, the main event, and then this is something that people should go out and watch as well.
I've never heard of a match involving any of these four described as cute, so that has won me over to seek this one out. And the one other title change, Atsushi Kotoge and Seiki Yoshioka over Yoshinari Ogawa and Chris Ridgway for the GHC Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships, going 27 minutes. So this was a deep card, and their next major show is October the 30th, and that's the one that is going to have Fujita challenging Kaito Kiyomiya. They also set up Hayata defending the junior title against Ninja Mac, and a junior heavyweight tag title match on that one as well. But their big show is January 22nd at the Yokohama Arena, with the announcement this week that Sting is coming over as the final match for the great Muta. He's just going to, what a retirement tour this is going to be. A year announcement and just saying goodbye to all of the different characters.
Well, I will actually believe that when it actually happens, John. That's all I'm going to say about that, so.
You don't think this could be it for Muto?
Oh, it's wrestling. It could just be a big swerve, and then, he's like saying, kidding,
Well, something I wanted to discuss as well was the 50th anniversary card that All Japan put on. Their return to Budokan Hall last weekend, their first time there since 2004, I believe it was, headlined by Suwama and Kento Miyahara, with Kento Miyahara winning the Triple Crown for the 6th time and thus surpassing Masawa's number of reigns as well as Kawada's for the second most Triple Crown reigns of all time. They went 16 and a half minutes. They brought in Stan Hansen for this one to read the declaration. Even got into it with Suwama on the floor. Kenta Kobashi was also there. I've got to say, for all of the miles, the hundreds of miles that this man has put on his body, Kenta Kobashi was getting around, hopping into the ring and out. He seemed like he's getting around a lot better than I would have assumed he would be at this stage of his life.
I think retiring from wrestling was the greatest thing that ever happened to him outside of his actual wrestling career, and he just had time to heal. I think also he's very happy being a family man as well, and just being kind of a spokesperson for wrestling instead of actually being a wrestler anymore. So yeah, it's done wonders for his health for sure, being not an active wrestler anymore.
I thought it was, they did on this show as well. They used the old, All Japan classic theme at the beginning. There were clips throughout the show. So I thought they did a nice job of kind of making this feel like an important show with some nostalgia mixed in there. I wouldn't say this was the most entertaining Suwama Miyahara match that I've seen before. I think we're going to pay more attention to Miyahara's match the next night on top of this, but it was, just a big battle towards the shutdown, and they did use the shutdown German for a 2 count with the crowd gasping as Suwama kicked out of that, and then he eats 2 blackouts and 1 final shutdown as Miyahara wins in 16:35 and is presented the Triple Crown by Stan Hansen and Kenta Kobashi. So a nice scene, regardless, that they had at the end with the presentation.
Yeah, not like you said, John, not the greatest encounter between these two. I think Voodoo Murder's Suwama is probably the worst version of Suwama in his career, the first time around, and especially this time around. I think you could have had this match and had it be better if it was not bogged down by him doing character work and just being a badass being the guy who was the ace before Miyahara came along.
Right.
Because I think that's the reason you built like Suwama and Miyahara for this 50th anniversary show at the Budokan, was because, okay, you got the guy who was the ace, from the early 2000s through the 2010s, into like the guy who's carried the company for the last 7 years, which is Miyahara. It's symbolic, and I think it's a good reward for both guys to be the main event of the show. But I just wish it wasn't like Voodoo Murder's version of Suwama, because it's very watered down. And like he always works hard, especially in these big matches, John. So I think if you had him not be bogged down by like being heel, he would have had a much more compelling physical match with Miyahara. But as it stands, it was fine. Like I didn't hate it, but I don't think it was the best thing on the show or in their rivalry, for sure.
In a surprise, Naoya Nomura defeated Jake Lee in 43 seconds. And this match was originally to feature Joe Doring, who, of course, is taking time off as his brain cancer has returned. So we send our best wishes to him. But this was just a totally like uncharacteristic type of match. This was second from the top. And you had just this wild striking exchange. And then Nomura landing a spear and a jackknife roll up to catch him in 43 seconds. This audience was stunned. I think it's brilliant to do these every now and then and just shock people to do something. And this set up Nomura going for the Triple Crown the next night at Korakuen Hall.
It's like Omori versus Akiyama in the Champions
Right.
Carnival that one year. Yeah, I agree with you. Like you got to do finishes where it's like less than 20 minutes for sure, and like 43 seconds. Why not? I mean, I think Jake's entrance was longer than this match. I think him disrobing was longer than this match. I will say, like, I was dismayed at what Nomura was wearing with the camo pants. I was just like, dude, what the fuck? Are you like a prepper now? Are you preparing for the apocalypse or some shit like that? Watching too much YouTube on the dark web, maybe. But yeah, that strike exchange, what we did get in those 43 seconds, John, was fucking great. Like Nomura, oh my god, he is so awesome. He hasn't lost a step. Since he came back with the match against Aoyagi. I haven't been able to watch any of his stuff in capture because I don't think it's broadcast anywhere, or at least I'm not aware of any sources of trying to watch these capture shows. But I would like to see more of him in any setting. But we'll talk, I guess, about the match he has on the next night at Korakuen Hall. But I will say for myself, I did watch the junior heavyweight title match. Atsuki Aoyagi defeated Tiger Mask to become the new junior heavyweight champion. Very, very good match for what it was. And like Aoyagi really picked up the slack with like Tiger Mask. He did his best, but he's not the Tiger Mask he used to be. But hey, good. You know what? Aoyagi is the champion now. He's been put over. Hopefully they give him the run with the belt for a while. I will say I really liked the World Tag Team title match. The Gunyer of Anarchy, Ryuki Honda and Shotaro Ashino, defeated the reuniting team of Get Wild, Manabu Soya, who works in Pro Wrestling Nova as a member of Congo now, and Takao Mori. And what I like is because, like, as someone who watched Wrestle 1, John, like Ashino has a big history with Soya, over the Wrestle 1 title. So they really played that up. And a lot of the best parts of this match were the interaction between Soya and Ashino. And I really like this team of Honda and Ashino. I think they're very smooth, and they work really well together. And I hope they get to keep these tag team titles for quite a while, because I think you have like something that can draw as an attraction on top with the tag team. So like I think that's really important to have in wrestling. So hopefully that goes. And the other match I thought was like okay, but still fun, was Yuma Aoyagi taking on Christopher Daniels. Thankfully he won that match. And yeah, those would be the matches I would say, hey, go out of your way to see. You don't need to see everything on this show though.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw in the Yuji Nagata match with Yuma Anzai, who was a collegiate wrestler, and this was his debut. So it was not just like your typical, just throwing him to the wolves. They gave Anzai a ton in this match. Like he got there was a double underhook suplex. He got like several covers on Nagata as well. Showed like a good amount of fire as well. Applied a Boston Crab to Nagata and kicked out of an exploder. So they gave him like miles in comparison to what is typical of someone in this kind of situation making their debut. And he fought off the Nagata lock as much as he could, but then Nagata cranked it on and got the submission. But for his first match, this is definitely someone that I would put on people's radar to watch his progression. And then he lost to Minoru Suzuki the next night, but quite a strong introduction, I thought here, and putting him with someone the level of Yuji Nagata, like to me, it does tell me that this guy was recruited by Suwama into the company, so I would say that he's definitely someone high on their list for the coming years.
Well, it's nice that they're actually trying to recruit like young wrestlers, especially ones with like kind of an amateur background, because I think that's something that they kind of need in All Japan. Most wrestling companies in general do, but like especially in All Japan, I think if you have a crop of wrestlers that you think are going to develop into something really, that will catch on with the fans, that's what All Japan needs right now. They've kind of missed the boat with like the last generation. That would be the next stream generation. Like, it's frustrating for me, like to see like Jake Lee, Yuma Aoyagi, and Naoya Nomura not be at the same level with Kento Miyahara in 2022. That should have all been done before the pandemic. That should have been done by 2019. They should all have been on a level. They all have pinfall victories over him, even have runs with the Triple Crown. Like I just think it's been a wasted opportunity for those three guys. And I don't know if the company will recover by trying to make them top guys. I think Jake Lee's just been snake bitten with bad luck the past 2 years, unfortunately. So I don't know if he's going to recover, but like they've never put the belt on Aoyagi, and I think they should. And like, Nomura is a big question mark if he's ever going to fully come back into All Japan. I hope he does. And I think if he does, that they should belt him up at some point if that does happen.
Before we get to the Korakuen Hall match, just given it's their 50th anniversary, it's very much like this is not the All Japan of the 80s, of the 90s, but how do you assess All Japan, its health right now? Like they've got to me a generational talent in Kento Miyahara. You just named off some fantastic supporting players that they have, but in the landscape that is, Japanese pro wrestling, where do you see All Japan fitting in? Is it sort of just it's several tiers below certainly a New Japan, but even a Noah that has a major company and cyber agent that is backing them? Like, can All Japan, are they in that conversation even?
I unfortunately will have to say no, because at least like it's a stark contrast watching All Japan and Noah back to back, which is what I did today.
Yeah.
And to see like the amount of talent that exists on the Noah roster in terms of like native talent and foreign talent, like it's a pretty good roster. If it's not even if it's not utilized the way I think it should be utilized, but it's like just looking at the names and like looking at the matches, that's an amazing roster actually. And then you have All Japan, which is like, they have half the amount of talent that Noah has, and again, it's like hit and miss with the way they're utilized. The booking has baffled me for the last 2 years. I don't understand it. You don't push the people that need to be pushed. Like Shotaro Ishino should have been elevated last year. And like now I think it's a good spot to be in the tag team with Ryuki Honda, but at the same time, like it should be because after he's been Triple Crown champion or have won the Champions Carnival at least. I like to think that there's always hope in the future. Like I always sometimes would be like watching like New Japan the last 20 years, John. It's like, okay, they're dead. Okay, no, they're gonna be okay. Oh, it's not so good. Oh, they got all this talent, and like the last, the next Dream talent, I was so excited for, and also like before that, it was like the generation of Sonata and Soya and some other people like in that company. I was just like, oh my god, this is like, and they had a good booker in Shuji Kondo and Kaz Hayashi, and then the whole thing where they left because of the conflict with Muto and the owner, and he formed Wrestle One. It was just like, that was a dark time as well. So like it's a very emotional roller coaster for me to watch New Japan, like see when there's so much promise, and then something happens, usually with booking, and then it goes downhill for a while, and then maybe hopefully it recovers. Like right now, I think they're in a valley. Like hopefully they're going to start rising to a peak again. I would hope so, at least for the 50th anniversary year. It's a shame because like look what they've spawned, like in terms of wrestling as a whole, in not only Japan with Pro Wrestling Noah, which we can say is a direct offshoot of All Japan Pro Wrestling, but also like the American indie scene of the early 2000s, which has permeated into mainstream wrestling in the last 10 years.
Yeah, and I mean, no one's going to confuse this with the glory years, but still, 4,780 was the attendance at Budokan Hall, which for All Japan, that's as high a number I think as you could expect for them to draw at Budokan, given their present state. I mean, that has to be one of their largest attendances in years.
Yeah, and hopefully they can build towards like a fresher main event with Miyahara on top. We'll see. Like I like to keep a hope open for them.
Well, the next night they are at Korakuen Hall with Miyahara defending against Nomura in front of 919 fans, and early on, Nomura nearly catches him with a cover immediately, and you have Miyahara going to the floor to regroup, and then it's focusing after this desperation lariat. He is selling his arm, he's selling his ribs after the Nomura lock. Nomura eats a blackout knee, and then he uses the referee as a shield, and that leads to him rolling up Miyahara, and the crowd gasps at this near fall. They thought that he was going to catch Miyahara. At this point, I was all in on this match. I love the spot, and the crowd like bit on the near fall here. Massive forearm from Nomura for another near fall. He hit maximum for a 2 count, and then goes for a burning hammer that Miyahara avoids. Another blackout knee, and Nomura fires back with these hard slaps, and Miyahara grabs hold for the shutdown, and it's just this big fight to finally get the grip, and he gets him up in the air. I love watching the setup for this shutdown. It's like it's like this painful process, but once he gets him, there's no escape, and he bridges 20 minutes, 24 seconds. I love this match. I like texted you as soon as I watched this on Saturday morning. I was like, shit, dude, this was awesome. I watched this after the Suwama match. Actually, no, I watched this in reverse. I watched this first and then the Suwama one. So it was, to me, this was like my unofficial, the 50th anniversary main event. This was.
Oh, yeah. It was better than the Suwama match.
Yeah.
I just the intensity that Nomura brings, and thank God he was actually wearing like some proper gear. This the pseudo sheet style.
Well, he knew he was going to be out for longer than 43 seconds, so you know what, he went all out for the.
He went all out for that.
Budokan, it's like whatever.
I would say like as just get kick pads to go with the shoes, because what you're wearing right now with the footwear is not enough. Get some kick pads for God's sakes. Go talk to like Takuya Nomura over at in Big Japan, and like, hey, what do you think? Here's some kick pads. Just take mine. You can. They say Nomura on them in English, so here you go. That's all he needs, really. But I gotta say, like Honda and Ashino, they pull off a miracle. They got a decent, entertaining match out of the Saito brothers, John, and these guys suck. They're so fucking terrible. I don't know what's worse, if the wrestling is worse than what they're wearing, but my God, their gear is actually fucking horrible too.
Yes, this one went 12 minutes 8 seconds with Ashino and Honda retaining the All Japan tag titles. And yeah, this I did not see this match. I only saw the main event.
Have you seen what they're wearing, these guys? Oh my God, it's terrible.
And then, Minoru Suzuki beat Yuma Enzai on the undercard of this, only going 5.5 minutes. And Yuji Nagata worked this one in a tag with Dan Tamura over Ryo Inoue and Takeo Omori. And Omori would come back after the main event, and he will be Miyahara's next challenger on October 22nd.
For a guy his age, he still moves pretty well. Takeo Omori. Yeah.
Well, he'll have his test next month on the 22nd.
Well, there you go. It's you know what? It's at least it's not Shuji Shikawa. And I like Shuji Ishikawa, but like I don't need to see Miyahara versus Shuji Ishikawa again for a while.
They have certainly run that one repeatedly. It's a great match, but yeah, it's one we have many volumes of by this point in 2022. But yeah, Kento Miyahara, I thought he had just a good match in the at Budokan, but I mean this match blew me away. I love this match with Nomura, so that was my big match recommendation was this one. So we will see what the future holds for one Naoya Nomura in the future. Stardom. Have you been keeping up at all with the 5-star Grand Prix? I admittedly have not.
No, it's
this is a long tournament. It's long, and it's like I'm either in or I'm out. I can't just drop in and out on. I'll watch a match here or there. It's tough, and it's one where.
I think for those of us who have to follow multiple promotions, John, like trying to follow 20 like one dates, like installments of a tournament, you're asking too much. This is for the hardcore Stardom only fans. You know what I mean? That's who this is for. It's not for those of us who trying to cover, New Japan, AW, plus trying to fit in, the 5-star Grand Prix. Like you have to be doing this full time, and you do this full time, but even you, it's tough for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's one, like, again, this tournament started in July, and it's a pretty big field as well. And listen, I've heard great things about this tournament. It's more so just the consistency of trying to keep up with all of it. But they have one more show left this coming week, October 1st. They have their last show. So the Red Stars, we have Azumi, Maika, Tem Nakano, Hameka, and Shuri, with Utami as well. So we have a 6-way tie with 14 points. I guess Risa Sera has 13 points, although she's pretty much out of this because Maika and Hameka are facing each other on the last day, and that pretty much eliminates Risa Sera because they're going to get points out of that. So right. Pretty much it's like this final 6 that you're looking for the Red Stars. And then on the Blue Stars side, Julia's on top with 15 points. And then Hazuki, Starlight Kid, and Suzuki have 14 points each. Saya Kamatani has 13, but the way I've done this math, so Julia, she has losses to Momo Watanabe, who's out, Hazuki, who is alive, and Mirai, who is pretty much out at this point. She might have a small mathematical chance, but she's at 13 points. And she had a draw with Mayu Iwatani. So Julia's taking on Suzuki on the last day. That could be what it comes down to. But yeah, Hazuki, Starlight Kid, and Suzuki are alive. So it's pretty much down to those 4, and then you will get the winners of each side meeting in the finals on the 1st.
I just want to say Suzuki is fucking amazing, John. Like for someone whose ambition is to be, deathmatch wrestler in Japan, like just as a straight wrestler, holy shit, she's freaking amazing. Like her finisher, I can't even describe how it goes, but like I watched a GIF of it for like a minute straight, and I was just like, how does she do this? She's just a really amazing talent, and she's like 18 or something like that still. It's unbelievable how talented she is. I'm hoping she, like not necessarily signs with Stardom, but does like a lot of her dates, like fills out her calendar with a lot of more Stardom dates. But her and Julia, that should be great. I mean, they have she came in to feud with Julia, so I think that'll be a great match. And but my thing is like I think Julia is gonna win the whole thing, to be honest with you.
It would seem like that if it comes down to her and Suzuki. That's kind of how I see the Blue Stars coming down. And then, I mean, geez, you could go so many different directions on the Red Stars side. I mean, you could see Utami going to the final with Julia. You could see Shuri going, and then Julia and Shuri in the final. There's a lot of interesting options. I will say this one issue with like Stardom, and I'm a Stardom World subscriber. I have always I've subscribed to it for a long time. The amount of pay-per-views that this company runs, and economically, it's got to be working out for them because they run more pay-per-views than anybody. Like they'll just at the drop of a hat announce, "Hey, this show is now going to be a pay-per-view," and that to me is something that it's just. I think like there should be a bit of a balance at times, but
I think it comes to a point where you're gouging your customer base. If they're paying for a streaming service on top of you like running pay-per-views, and like I don't know what the time gap is between running the pay-per-view and then putting it up on Stardom World is.
I think it's around like 4 days or so, which is not like killer. But at the same time, if you're somebody that is like that's a long time too, when you're just suddenly the pay-per-view comes up, but now Stardom's already put up like 2 more shows to do. It's very easy to just fall behind if you're not like religiously following the product. So the best solution is Dream Slam Weekly every Saturday at postwrestling.com, where Karen Peterson does keep you up to date and follows all things Stardom. And we'll have a report this weekend after the final night of the multi-month long 5-star Grand Prix.
Also, it's her 1 year anniversary with us, isn't it?
That is it. She wrote a very nice introduction in this week's edition up on the site, and it's been a fantastic year having Karen Peterson on board. Our next in line program is spearheaded by WH Park, who brought Karen Peterson into the fold.
I mean,
much like Suwama recruiting, you are our Suwama, WH.
Am I?
Not
the Voodoo Murders version.
No.
I stopped putting a blonde streak in my hair many years ago. So, but yeah, hey, congratulations to Karen for being part of the team for a year, and like hopefully many more years to come. She's very busy, John. Like,
No, I know.
The stuff with Pro Wrestling Illustrated and then like her secret projects that she told me about. I don't know if you know about them, but like I can't say anything about that.
I'm on the outside. I'm just got my cup up against the wall to try and hear.
You'll have to hear from her. I cannot speak about it, but yeah, like hey, check out all the stuff. Her appearances on different podcasts here at Post Wrestling, her own stuff, but also like Dream Sign Weekly, just a great addition to the site.
Yes, and if maybe we will get Karen on in a few weeks, because if she is in fact going to make it to the Royal Quest shows, I know she's also planning to go to the Rumble on 44th Street shows, which New Japan's now doing 2 shows in New York.
She might be the most dedicated, New Japan fan that I know, and especially, the way I feel about the booking, that, more power to her. She can find enjoyment out of this company.
Before we get into what is coming up for WH Park, anything else on your radar that you've been following? Any recommendations? Anything else that has caught your interest?
No, I will say, like, I feel like there's kind of this.
What are you excited about right now?
What am I excited about right now, John? In wrestling?
Yes.
Nothing. Nothing. You know what I'm excited about, John? When the bloodline finally turns on Sami Zayn, and it's led by Jey Uso, like I think that'll be glorious. I'm not a huge WWE fan these days, but I do like that storyline. I think it's great.
Good.
I thought that whole T-shirt business that was tremendous stuff, and I really hope that the end point of this storyline is like Kevin Owens saves him, and they take the tag team titles from the Usos, because that would be tremendous.
I think they could do a really good job with that. It's one thing. Like I don't think it's 100% success rate that WWE is having right now. But one major change to me is that I watch every week, and I'm at least giving enough benefit that they know where they're going next week. They might even know where they're going by the next pay-per-view. Like, you watch each week and you feel like there is a story being told here, and it's not simply we're showing up each week and plans are getting thrown out the window and we're just miraculously putting together a show that hopefully has some cohesion to it. Like, you do feel like there is, like, this bloodline thing. You feel like there's going to be a climax to this. Yeah. And if it's Sammy and Owens winning, great. That would be a tremendous way to end that tag title reign.
I will say this. Okay. What am I excited about? I won't say I'm excited, but I'm curious as to what they're going to do for Wrestle Kingdom this coming January. I think, because my guess is they're going to do Ospreay versus Omega singles match, semi-main event of that show. And
I think so too. I think so.
And I think with borders opening up, if they do that match and they announce it for Wrestle Kingdom, like, people are going to travel to Japan for that. Like, people are going to say, I'm going to Japan for sure for Wrestle Kingdom.
It's a great point.
I think it's a smart thing to do. And hey, you know what? I will say, like, I saw, the 6-man tag, the Elite versus, the United Empire in AEW. And I thought that's a really great match. I actually want to see a Kenny Omega singles match, John. And I want to see it against Will Ospreay, because I think it'll be pretty fucking good. So I won't go to Japan for it. I'm not going to fly out there for that. But hey, I will watch it and cover it with you.
Maybe we'll get together then.
I should just come over to your house at 5:00 in the morning and then just record right after in your basement.
We could. We'll. That remains to be seen if I can. That one I'd have to take a vote inside my house of
Sure,
whether
I
I can have folks over at 5 a.m. But yes, that is. I agree with you. The way that everything was, done with Kenny and Ospreay, that was to me kind of what I was left with. Like that should be Tokyo Dome. So we will see. And I didn't even put that into perspective as well, like what that would mean for travelers, for that New Japan greatly needs to rebuild. And that would be, I don't know if you can come up with it with much of a better match than that. And that would be including if they could have a Bryan Danielson or someone. I think like Omega and Ospreay is probably the match, if there's anyone that New Japan can book, that would be pushing.
Well, I mean, they could book CM Punk versus Kenny Omega in the Tokyo Dome, and people would come for that.
Oh, that's right. If they and have a press conference afterwards.
That's right.
So that's going to wrap things up. But there's always plenty going on with WH Park, including next weekend here at the site. The long and winding Royal Road is going to be traveling to the year 1989.
That's right. Gareth Hodgson, who is the creator of the Grapple app and a member of the Grapple Spotlight, along with Benno and JP, friends of this website, and he's joining me. He picked the British Bulldogs versus Joe and Dean Malenko from Korakuen Hall, John. And have you ever seen this match?
No, I have not.
Okay, you're in for a treat, John. I think you will love this match. It is just
So this is January 89. So this is literally 2 months after the Bulldogs have left WWF after and the whole like Rougeos thing that had gone down as well. So this is like fresh off their WWF run.
Yes. And this is like people who are not familiar with Joe Malenko. I'm sure there's tons of people who know about Dean, but if you're not familiar with Joe Malenko, you're in for a treat, because Joe is just as good as Dean. And he's pretty much the featured player in this match. Like Dean's a big part of it too, but Joe Malenko, I love Joe Malenko. Like I thankfully have been able to see a lot of Joe Malenko over my years as a fan of All Japan, getting tapes and seeing things on Daily Motion or YouTube. Go out and see his match with Dean. There's a good singles match between those two. But this is a great match. Gareth picked this, and I've never seen this match before, John, until I watched it for this review, and I was just like blown away. And I was even more impressed when I watched it the second time to take my notes for it. So I think you personally will love this match, and I can't wait to get your thoughts on it. But Gareth and I recorded earlier today. That's going to be out next week, and yeah, there's a link up already. I tweeted out, but I'll do it again, of course, closer to the release of the show, and it'll be in the show description as well. But if you want to see tag team excellence, like you're not going to get much better than the Malenko brothers taking on the British Bulldogs. And this comes off the heels of like the last review we did with Rusher Kimura and Giant Baba taking on Stan Hansen and Tenru. Did you watch that match, John?
I did not see that match.
No. Oh my God. You got to catch up on this stuff, John. Come on.
I got homework to do.
Huh?
I've got homework now to do.
So there you go. There you go. But like, for sure, the Malenko Bulldogs match, you will definitely love that for sure. So yeah, check that out. That's next weekend. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, go check out the British Bulldogs against the Malenkos from January of 1989. You said Korakuen? That one was that?
That's a Korakuen. And John, this is a semi-main event of that show.
Wow.
And this crowd, that you might as well have put like Masao and Kawada, the way these people are reacting to this match. They're so into it. It's amazing to see. It's fantastic.
Well, you can follow him as well. WH
Park. Oh, MCU later.
MCU later. Yes. Tell us where are we up to in She-Hulk? Episode 7 coming this week?
Episode 7 is coming up, and I'm doing that with Rich Fan as Way is still kind of sort of on his parental leave. I know he's back doing the wrestling stuff, but he hasn't come back to doing the Marvel stuff yet. I'm sure by the time we do the next series that's going to be on Disney, he'll be back for that. But I got Rich Fan from the Pro Wrestling Torch, John, and Rich is awesome. We're having a blast with all our guests, And yeah, we're gonna do episode 7 coming up, and that should be fun. I look forward to watching She-Hulk, and then I look forward to talking about it with Rich and whoever our guests might be. So yeah, check it out. That's only on the Post Wrestling Cafe though. Got to subscribe for that.
Yeah, sign up, postwrestlingcafe.com. We'll have an Ask Away mailbag show coming up this Tuesday, MCU later, Rewind to SmackDown, all coming up this week for members of the cafe. And Post Pro Res, we'll be back sooner than later. We'll reconvene around mid-October because we'll have I'm definitely going to watch the Stardom show this weekend because it's a pretty light weekend in pro wrestling. So we'll have that to talk about. Declaration of Power that I know WH is counting down to.
That's a terrible name. King of Pro Wrestling was way better. Declaration of Power. You might as well call it Declaration of Weeboness, as far as I'm concerned.
Chief Branding Officer WH Park signing off. I am John Pollock, and thanks to everybody for tuning in to Post Pro Res.